How tough of an upbringing did your dad have?
My dad came from very humble beginnings.
Wyoming, right?
Yeah, Wyoming. His mother was a single mother. This is like the Depression, coming out of the Depression, you know, so she would work a job during the day, and then she would, you know, at night go on dates. You know, she was looking to get married, and she would leave my dad home alone and, you know, lock him in. He was like a latchkey kid. And, you know, he would wake up and be terrified, you know, because he couldn't find his mom. And, you know, he talked about those times in his life. He was very vulnerable and fragile. And, you know, she remarried, and her new husband wouldn't adopt my dad. He had the last name Buss in a family with the last name Brown. And then they went on to have 2 more kids. So he, you know, he always felt left out because he wasn't, you know, he wasn't part of the family. And that exclusion, you know, that pain made him who he was, because he never wanted people to feel excluded. And that's why it was really important to him about Laker games. He wanted everybody to be a Laker fan. Nobody would be excluded from being a fan of his team.
And you were talking about the poker lessons he gave you. I think this plays into it, but it was him and a colleague, they were aerospace engineers, put aside $83.33 from their monthly payments until they accumulated $1,000. Take it from there.
And then they bought their first apartment building. And they did all the handyman work themselves, rented out the units, and created positive cash flow. And then my dad, having the mathematical mind, knew, well, if I can do this with one, let's multiply it. And so that's when they started to amass this real estate empire. And certainly real estate in Southern California in the 60s and 70s, you know, there was a population boom, and, you know, he made a lot of money.
At the time when he decided to buy the Lakers, what did people think of the deal he did with Jack Kent Cooke?
It was one of those things that he spent 2 years trying to convince Jack Kent Cooke to sell him the team. And Cooke, at the time, was living in Nevada because he was going through what ended up being, at that time, the largest divorce settlement in history. But he moved to Nevada to become a resident of that state in order to try to get around some of the community property. And so he wasn't attending Laker games. And so my dad would fly to Vegas and meet with him and, you know, continue to work on him to get him to sell the team. Because my dad saw this undervalued asset that wasn't being paid attention, and that he knew that if he could get control of that asset, that he could bring more value to it. And you know, eventually did, but it was a very complicated transaction where they literally, you know, were trading land, and at one point, you know, Cooke wanted the Chrysler building, and so my dad somehow, you know, got that through different real estate transactions, and he owned the Chrysler building for about 5 minutes. And, you know, he loved to tell that story. But, you know, here he comes in, and his reputation, you know, he owned a Playboy club, you know, he loved to play pool, loved to play cards. And, you know, the old guard at the league office were kind of like, you know, who is this guy? You know, he's kind of brash, and is he going to come in and ruin the league? And, you know, so he almost didn't get approved. The
impact you think he's had on the NBA would be what?
I think, you know, he was somebody that, you know, really thought about the marketing and the merchandising. And so, you know, he was the one that brought in the Laker girls. you know, that had never been done before. He liked having what we called the Laker band, but it was really made up of USC and UCLA band members. He liked that college atmosphere, that it was, you know, that it was a constant, you know, something going on. When the Laker Girls came out, you know, it was the ultimate in, you know, giving each gender the stage, right? So the men had the stage. When they took the break, the women got center stage. And so, you know, it was about, you know, shining a light on great talent, having entertainment. And, you know, nobody had really thought of the NBA like that before. The timing was good, and, you know, the passion for giving Los Angeles a team that they could be proud of was really important to him. And so the investment and the passion and the brilliance of Jeanie Buss really created an asset.